And we're on.
Oh, we are. It's on. It's on. Hey, everybody. My name is Stephen Bell, and welcome to the History of Everything podcast. Uh,
Incredible.
I saw some more comments on a few videos this week on TikTok and Instagram, and also here where people were like, it was one of those things where it came up on TikTok, and it was like a video. It was a video of mine. I was looking through some old stuff, and it was a stitch I did with Stakuyi, and it was somebody commenting, "This is the first time I realized you're different people."
What?
We've been getting that for 2 years.
You guys are not that similar looking, which is
I
weird.
think it's the tone of our voice. Like the
Okay.
depth and the tone is very similar.
Yeah.
We both have dark hair and facial hair. We both are around the same age. Like I can see where it comes from. Like if you follow us separately and you've never seen us interact, I can see how somebody who just casually follows both of us it wouldn't occur
That's
to them.
fair. Yeah. When you're paying more attention to the content than the presenter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially if you're just listening to audio.
Yeah, it's true.
Because I listened to some of the D&D campaign. There was a D&D one shot I did with him this past week, actually, I think. Wow, this was a long week.
I didn't even know you were doing it.
It might have been 2 weeks ago.
Shot.
I didn't either until like 2 days before I did it.
How was it?
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Like I wanted, we should set something up.
I did one once and it fell apart in like less than 30 minutes. So I'd love to do one that doesn't.
Yeah, I can ask the guy that we did this one with. He's a D&D streamer. That's what he does.
Yeah, I'm down.
It was a lot of fun, actually. I was playing as a bard, of course. Talked my way out of everything. Got myself down to 1 HP twice.
Nice. Nice.
Twice. My character's main method of causing damage to people was just insulting them. But of course, it's D&D, so in my mind, I'm like thinking video games, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna use vicious mockery. I'm like playing a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Yeah.
But no, then the DM's like, well, what do you say? And I'm like, oh, I gotta think of something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and like, while I'm very good at writing insults,
Yeah,
sometimes
on the
it's
fly.
hard to think of them on the fly.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's why I've been battling with all these flat earthers on Twitter, is so that I know exactly what insults to use.
You're just practicing for D&D.
Yeah, exactly.
Incredible.
Any insult you use against a flat earther can be used against somebody in D&D, as far as I'm concerned. Probably work.
So that kind of brings us into one of the main topics of today. But
I don't want to freak everybody out. We're talking about flat Earth towards the end of the show as part of a broader segment on conspiracies.
Yes.
Because we wanted to go through. We've talked about a number now. We've talked about the crustal displacement. We've talked about ancient apocalypse. Those are kind of linked. Talked about flat Earth, Tartaria,
Bohemian Grove, the Illuminati.
Yeah, we've hit a lot.
Yeah.
Damn. Wow. We've been prolific.
Yeah.
So
what a great word to just drop. Like prolific, I understand, is not that like unique of a word, but I was not anticipating it in that sentence.
That's fair. But yeah, so tonight for the show, we thought it would be fun. We're going to talk about the smiley face killer stuff to start, because that is, in a way, a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
The conspiracy being that the FBI knows that the smiley face killers are a real thing and refuses to acknowledge it.
And you kind of have a couple separate independent conspiracy theories underneath the umbrella of a smiley face, in the sense of like your theories about what the different kind of groupings are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't think these are all one guy.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't even think these are a guy. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, real quick before we dive too deep, do we want to give the idea?
Let me finish.
Wasn't sure.
I'm weirdly organized today. It's the Adderall.
All right, fair. Incredible.
Dr. Duckett, if you're watching this, please actually, give me a long-term prescription instead of just giving me little mini trial prescriptions of things.
Yeah.
Or at least answer my emails.
Doesn't sound like a great doctor if he's not
He's a
answering
really
emails.
good psychiatrist. He's just extraordinarily difficult to get in touch with sometimes. Like he's a great psychiatrist, and he's a good therapist. It's just like sometimes it's hard to get in touch with the guy.
Yeah.
Which,
fair.
granted, this is just him writing me prescriptions. I'm not coming in for appointments, so he's not really even getting paid. But it would be nice still. Like
that would probably help.
My brother in Christ, I will set up an appointment and I will come in and I will pay you if you like write me a prescription.
Yeah.
I need the prescription.
Yeah.
Like I'm out of ADD meds right now, and I have no way of getting more.
It's literally for work.
Yeah. I'm literally calling my primary care tomorrow to be like, hey, I haven't heard from my psychiatrist in 2 months.
Wow.
Could I maybe get a prescription for something? Because once you've been on these kinds of drugs, once you're off of them, you have trouble focusing. Like it takes the ADD and makes it worse. And I tried for years to cope with it naturally, and just the second I got on medication, I was like, oh, this is normal. This is what normal feels like. Okay, this is cool. Like, awesome. But yeah, all that out of the way, the little fun, funky introduction section done. We do have to put this forward because it's been a while since we talked about the way Super Chats function on this channel, and suddenly we're getting a lot more of them. Not really suddenly, it's been gradual, but it started to rear its head in the videos. So what I wanted to say is, to start the show, please submit Super Chats by 8 p.m. if you would like them answered. That is the hour mark in the show, because after that point, it starts to pile up to the extent that we can't get through all of them. So if you have a Super Chat, please try and get it in by 8 p.m. If it's in by 8:02, I'm not going to be mean about it. But yeah, so if you want to send Super Chats after that, go for it. I'm not going to say no, just they might not get answered. So if we get to a point where we don't have enough time to get through all the Super Chats, we're getting to 8:45, then we will cut off at everything that came before 8. So with that said, Aiden, you've been watching me talk about the smiley face killers for 6 months now.
Yeah.
What thoughts do you have, having been to talk to Tommy Booth's mom with me and all that?
Yep. I would say it definitely, I like, and I don't know how much you want me to go into detail about your theory in particular.
Say what you want. Actually, really quickly, first, we should probably, it just occurred to me, some people watching might not know what we're talking about, because we've never actually given a straight what is the smiley face killer theory in any of the videos. We've kind of just referenced what it is.
It's true.
It is it's hard to even call it a theory. It's really more of a hypothesis. But Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte are retired New York City police detectives, and in 1998, I believe, they became aware of some strange drownings that were going on. I haven't gone deep into the full story yet. I plan to. I've mostly been focusing on the cases themselves because I didn't want to taint my thoughts. Although I do use their book, Case Studies in Drowning Forensics, pretty frequently, because it's just got all the details in it.
Yep.
Excuse me. If you strip out their opinions and just go with the facts, it's a great book. And it's also pretty well done in terms of just sticking to the facts. But the concept is that there are it's kind of like Missing 411. There is a high frequency of a specific demographic in these drowning cases. There are, all over the country, but mostly the Midwest, men who just, after a night of drinking, end up drowning accidentally in the river. It's quite frequently the Mississippi. And the police write it off as an accidental alcohol-related drowning. Thing is, in a lot of the cases, it doesn't really seem like it is an accidental alcohol-related drowning. What it seems like is a murder. That somebody staged to look like an accidental drowning. And there is a specific demographic. It's typically men who are average height to above average height, well-built, as in athletic build, intelligent, successful, popular, just kind of the popular kids to an extent. But it varies. It doesn't always fit that exact demographic. Sometimes you'll have somebody who's maybe a little bit shorter, like 5'6", but they match all the other things. So the idea is that all of these men are being targeted by someone or some organization. And some have said that organization is online. Some have said that it's an organized crime group that has roots all over the country. And some think it's just one serial killer. I will say, looking at it, that would be a serial killer who has to travel quite a bit. But I also think there's other issues with the theory, and we can get into them. But I want to know what your perspective is first.
Yeah, so I think I generally, for the most part, agree with everything that you've kind of covered about a lot of these different cases. I think the ones that, and again, I can let you kind of like elaborate on your opinions. I guess they're in the videos, so people are watching, they'll have seen them. But, for me, my biggest curiosity is if there really is any connection city to city. Mm-hmm. Because I think the ones that are located in, for example, Lacrosse or Pittsburgh, things like that, I think those are definitely not
connected.
Yeah, sorry, people are telling me the volume's low, so I'm currently trying to figure that out in
you're
the back
good.
of my head while also answering this question. So,
Weird the volume's low since we didn't change it from last night.
that's the thing. That's what I'm confused about because we have good levels here. We have good levels in Streamlabs.
I do also. Sometimes people just don't realize how bad their speakers are.
Well, people are saying normally I have you guys on like 30 on the TV, and I have you at 75 right now. And
Weird.
stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did we do?
I don't think we changed anything. Although I will say, I'm looking at no, the levels are basically the same as they were yesterday.
Yeah,
Weird. It could be the new system.
But-
no, because we had Roanoke on with this system. Yeah, I don't know. Well, anyway, you were saying about the ones in Lacrosse and Pittsburgh.
Yep. So yeah, well, sorry guys, we'll try and figure it out at some point if I can. Yeah. So I think I'd be really interested to see if, and yeah, we're in the yellow there too. So it's
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, neither do I.
YouTube's also just being weird lately.
Yeah, they are.
Like every single big creator I know who's between 100,000 and 1 million subscribers is seeing their views down across the board.
Yeah.
It's really strange.
It'd be really great if YouTube was a little bit more clear about when they were going to do like algorithm testing and things like that,
Yeah.
or if it is,
Or if they just tested it with a sample
yeah,
instead of the entire platform.
yeah. But
Ella.
yeah. So running through the list, we've got Lacrosse, we have Pittsburgh, we have Tommy Booth. Who else have we covered?
Yeah, so we had Lacrosse, Pittsburgh, Tommy Booth is Philadelphia, technically Ridley, but technically Wynwood, I think. But yeah, so those three, Todd Guy, we've covered six different ones. Riley Strain, just covered Colin Fortney, that was also Lacrosse. I feel like I'm missing somebody.
Colin Fortney. Did you say Brian Schaefer?
I did not say Brian Schaefer, but I don't understand why he's even put into these. And Brandon Swanson is too.
Yeah.
Like people talk about Brandon Swanson and Brian Schaefer being smiley face killers cases, and I'm like, by what metric? Literally nothing about these are smiley face killers cases. First of all, Brian Schaefer didn't even end up in the water. I mean, let's go through it like that, I guess. What we can kind of start there. But we have those are the places. So we're all over the eastern half of the country here.
Mhm.
There's also cases that are New York. There are some that are Boston. I think those are the other two cities that have multiple.
It's a good question. Yeah, you know them better than I do.
Yeah. So I mean, just kind of start going into it. Personally, I saw some comments this week on the videos that were like, I'm kind of disappointed that you guys are buying into the smiley face conspiracy theory, and I'm like, well, we're not. Just to be clear, there's a certain degree of clickbaiting that must happen. Unfortunately, I don't know if you guys, for those of you that have been around since the very beginning, our video titles used to be extremely direct and to the point. Our thumbnails were too. People just didn't watch. So we had to go and make it a little bit more conspiratorial, a little bit more like, acting like something's being hidden, I guess.
Yeah.
Which at the end of the day, things are being hidden, but it's just behind a wall of information that nobody has time to look into. Like the information's all out there. Nobody's actually hiding it. It's just you have to be in a really weirdly specific set of circumstances to have the time to go look at it. Like me. I get to sit here and look at whatever I think you people will want to see me talk about every week. So I don't have to worry about what a network or a university is telling me to study.
Which isn't that such a great position to be in?
So nice. It is so nice. But yeah, so starting with the cases that I don't think are, and you can keep me on time checks, just let me know every like 20. So like 8:20, 8:48, and then 7:20, 7:48, 8 o'clock.
We're at 7:18 right now.
Cool. Starting with the cases that I don't think are particularly relevant to the entire theory at all. Like there's cases where you're like, okay, maybe like they fit these are guys who just have nothing to do with it. Brandon Swanson often comes up as a smiley face killers case. I think he's even listed on the Wikipedia, which I oddly, none of the actual like cases that seem like they could be a smiley face killer thing, none of those are actually on Wikipedia. Oh, also, in case it wasn't clear, because I don't think I mentioned it, they find smiley faces near the bodies. Find me a wall of graffiti that does not have a smiley face on it.
Yeah, I would love to know the percentages of how frequent smiley faces are graffitied or like tagged somewhere by comparison to other graffiti, because it's probably really high.
It's probably one of the most, I think it is one of the most common graffiti types. It's just a simple smiley face. So I think these are guys who, are looking at cities, they're looking at disappearances in cities, and they're seeing smiley face graffiti nearby, and it's not registering that it's probably just because you're in a city.
Well, the other profile thing that didn't make sense to me is, I haven't done as deep of like research or anything into this as you have, but it doesn't seem like any of these smiley faces have any particular consistent, details about them.
Nope. They're just smiley faces. And part of the way that that's been worked into the theory is that this isn't one serial killer. It is a group of people with an MO who do this for some reason, whether it's gang initiation or one of the things that I suggested early on is maybe this is a group of women online who have had bad experiences with men and they're killing these guys as surrogates. And that they've found that this, I mean, if you think about the way these men die, it's one of the hardest things to prove that these were, in fact, murders. Because if you look at, we'll get into a little bit more, but if you look at the ways in which Todd Guy and Tommy Booth and all the guys in Lacrosse and Pittsburgh, Riley Strain, all of these guys have died, it really is impossible to distinguish from just the autopsy results whether or not these guys were killed. Because the way people have chosen to kill them, if that's what's happening, is a way that washes away all of the evidence.
Yeah, and you had a really good segment in the most recent video about the GHB and specifically the research you did on that paper that showed how quickly it can be metabolized and how hard it is to determine, essentially, if that is a causal factor.
There's no agreed-upon baseline for endogenous GHB production yet. It's really such a new field of study, trying to figure, studying the effects of GHB, that there's no established baseline. It's anything between, I think one's 10 micrograms per liter or something like that. One's 15, one's 5, one's 18. I think in the book they used 12. I think. Not positive.
Yep.
Point is, there's no baseline. So it's kind of like a
Yeah.
What I think people need to do is start just testing. Every autopsy needs to be screened for GHB, because eventually you'll have a sample size where it'll be like, okay, well, humans naturally range between 7 and 12 micrograms per liter, and we got that data from thousands upon thousands of dead people across all demographics. Instead, right now, they have to do these, point-for-point studies. They have to do experiments. I think an observational study could be extremely helpful here. But in order to do that, you have to actually screen for GHB, and that's not always done during autopsies. It's getting more common, but it's not always done. But when you look at what GHB does, it basically mimics the exact same symptoms as alcohol. If you, I forget what all of the symptoms were, but all the side effects, but it's things like blackouts, forgetfulness, disorientation, slurring your words, stumbling. The positive effects were it gives you energy, makes you excited, lifts your mood, raises your libido, all things that it makes you more confident, all things that happen when you drink. So if somebody is dosed with GHB and they're drinking, as long as it's not enough of a dose that it just straight up knocks them out, which, again, it's, as far as I understand, it's a stimulant. So, I'm not sure. I actually don't know if it's a stimulant or a depressant. That did not occur.
Yeah, and I would imagine if it mimics the effects of alcohol, then
probably a depressant.
And it would probably be a depressant, yeah.
But the most important part, the reason it's used as a date rape drug, is because it wipes your memory. You don't remember anything that occurred while you were on GHB.
Yeah.
Now maybe you could get it back through a forensic hypnosis treatment. That is something that people do. I actually used to walk dogs for a hypnotist. But they can help you retrieve certain memories. So I'd be curious to see if they could get Cullen to sit down with somebody from a forensic hypnosis standpoint.
Speaking of curiosity, I am curious because I have one particular question about the smiley face situation for you. I know, and we're kind of gearing towards the Riley Strain element of this with the GHB conversation and, the things that he mentioned to his mother. But on the whole, with the smiley face killers thing, I know we have, through your research, you've kind of ruled out certain people as more likely being one-offs.
Yeah. Like Tommy Booth. I know Tommy's parents think that it was connected to the smiley face thing. I disagree. I think he was murdered for sure. It seems more likely to me that this was, given how a usually these are larger bodies of water.
Mm.
There always seems to be a female element to it, or at least often seems to be a female element to it. I think it's probably. I just don't see. I don't see any reason to think that Tommy was one of these. Like they found a smiley face nearby, but it was carved into the planks at a bar.
Yeah.
Which is like where you're going to see graffiti anyway.
Yeah.
They couldn't ascertain whether it was there already or not.
So in terms of taking out the people that you've ruled out essentially with, the cluster in Lacrosse, the cluster in Pittsburgh, and then what you inferred in the Riley Strain video about Nashville, what do you believe the likelihood is that these clusters are the responsibility of either an individual or a small group of people? And, which one do you think is more likely? And do you think that you've seen enough similarities between what happened in Lacrosse and Pittsburgh and, other spaces that we haven't gotten a full chance to look at? What are those kind of details that may or may not be leading you to believe that?
So, yeah, here, I'll start with the two that I don't think are connected at all.
Yep.
Brian Schaefer and Brandon Swanson.
Mhm.
We looked at Brandon Swanson as a missing 411 case back last year.
Yep.
Brandon Swanson was 19. He was legally blind in one eye. He had just left a party where he was drinking. He already had a DUI from when he was underage, and he was only 19, but when he was under 18, he had a DUI. So if he had gotten pulled over and they caught wind that he was drunk, he would have lost his license for, I think, a year, which, considering he went to school half an hour from home, and I believe he was living at home, would have been a problem. So when you look at what happened with Brandon, he was under the influence. Everyone at the party said that he wasn't, or that he had only had a couple drinks, but he seemed totally coherent. When you think about the situation, at the time, everybody thought he was still alive, and if it got out, think about how kids are, if it had gotten out that he was drunk driving, he might have gotten in trouble, or the people who gave him the alcohol might have gotten in trouble. Of course, in cases like this, when they find the person alive, the police rarely go after the people who helped search, because that encourages people to keep their mouths shut in the future. So my concern is that people probably undersold how drunk Brandon actually was, and then he ends up in his car goes up a little ditch on the side of the road. It's stuck. He has to get out. He calls his dad and his mom, and he's on the phone with them for a couple of hours, but he has his location wrong. He keeps saying he's near Lind, and that he sees the lights of Lind and he's going to walk towards it. But his car was located nowhere near Lind, in a position that matched the way he had described where his car was and what had happened. So it didn't seem like somebody had abducted him from Lind and then driven him and the car up there and then gotten rid of him. It seemed more like he had taken the back roads out of... he lived in Marshall. What was the town he was... It's been a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, he took the back roads home from school because he didn't want to be on the main road where he might get spotted by a cop. And the way that this part of, I think it was Minnesota, is laid out, I mean, it's just a grid. It's literally just 1 square mile plots of farms with roads intersecting them everywhere. It's basically just a giant grid. So you can pretty easily navigate those roads if you have a general idea where you're going. Because if you know that you need to go, say, 10 miles east and then 6 miles south, you don't even need a GPS. You don't even need to look. You can just be like, all right, well, every time I cross a road, I've gone a mile. So it's probable that that's what Brandon did, in my opinion. And as for him disappearing completely, that's the weirder part to me. Maybe he fell into the creek, and the creek was high that night, so maybe it did wash him away before anybody could find him. It shouldn't have. I believe there was even a grate in the creek somewhere that should have caught him. But who knows? There's also the possibility that he fell into an old well or a cistern, something like that. A sinkhole. Dogs traced his scent to an abandoned farm that they used as a staging ground to search the area, but they never found him there. And dogs sometimes do get it wrong.
If I'm remembering correctly, did you in the video suggest or consider the possibility that it might have been trafficking?
I don't think I did. And my reasoning, I might have. Looking back at it, probably not. I think I think it might have just been that we had trafficking on the mind at the time. Because of the whole Sound of Freedom thing. But if you look at all the details here and the rest of the MO for the smiley face killers, I mean, it's not urban. It's not a river. It's a creek. So not urban, not a river. Brandon was not particularly successful, athletic. He was attending basically a community college. I think might have been a trade or a technical college, but he wasn't. It's not like he was at, a big state school or an Ivy League. He just doesn't fit with the rest of the MO. And since since his body was never found, we don't even know that he drowned. And if he didn't drown, then it's just not even a thing. Also, if it were the smiley face situation, then it would have had to be somebody who knew him, which means they would have had to have followed him. And you'd think he would have noticed a pair of headlights following the whole way. You think he would have said something about it to his dad, and he didn't. All he said was he could see the lights of Lind, and I think we determined he could see Taunton, which was much closer and in the direction that he would have thought. The confusing part was that the scent trail led away from Taunton. So, and I might have this mixed up a little bit because it's been a year, but yeah. I don't think that there's anything to suggest that Brandon Swanson was a smiley face killer case. I think more likely, either he fell into a well or cistern, or he trespassed. Maybe he was, because it wasn't, I think it was like between 1 and 2 a.m. Could have been that he was wandering his way through a farmer's land and ended up, getting shot because somebody thought he was an intruder, a trespasser, a robber, something like that. And then it could have been that the farmer panicked and went, it's just a kid. Oh no. I don't want to go to jail. Buried the body somewhere. We do know that several farmers were not willing to allow searchers onto their property, though there were viable reasons for that. Dogs scare cows. Being one. Unfamiliar dogs scare cows. People in general scare cows, if there's unfamiliar people all over the place. Also, you'd have people trampling on crops. You'd have, there'd be all sorts of issues. People might track stuff in with them. You might end up with like wrappers left places. So you can kind of understand why a farmer might say, hey, I understand the situation, but I can check my own land. Which, of course, given that the police at that point were not in the lead of the investigation, they had no reason to get a warrant.
Yeah, they didn't really have any authority to be able to say, it doesn't matter what you do or do not want. We're coming on your land and we're finding this kid.
It's like, and the thing is, the one farm that the dogs actually led them to that they could have gotten a warrant for was abandoned anyway. So I don't think it's abandoned anymore. I was able to locate it eventually. As for Brian Schaefer, he was Columbus, Ohio, which is, okay, he's 27, he's a med student, he's good looking, he plays guitar, he is on track for a very successful career. Like, all told, pretty solid candidate as far as the MO goes. He's 27, I believe he was 6 feet tall. The dude was shredded. He's, like the exact profile.
Yeah, great looking guy, really good track to be successful as he gets older. Just like fits the profile perfectly, and
But he was never located, and you would think that if he left the bar with somebody, he would have done so out the front door, and it would have been caught on camera, like his other interactions outside of the bar that night. Of course, the big thing with the Brian Schaefer case that everybody asks is, how did he get out of the bar? Because he's not on video leaving the bar. There were only 2 entrances into the bar. One was the emergency exit that was, like, I forget exactly where in the bar, but there was an emergency exit. Thing was, there was a panning camera, that would usually hit that emergency exit at least once every minute. I don't remember the exact rate, but it was, it was panning at a rate that it should have been capturing the whole room pretty frequently. And they had a security guard posted by that door. So either the security guard or the camera saw it and somebody's lying, or Brian did not leave out the emergency exit. Now, there is one little rumor floating around that there was a glitch in the camera, that it seems to just jump cut at one point. Although I also saw one story that said it didn't jump cut, it just started going the other direction, like it was manually changed. But if it was manually changed to go the other direction, that would mean that part of the security staff was trying to hide it. They cleared the security staff. Also, why would the security staff randomly target this one dude this one time? Nobody seemed to have any motive. The police interviewed hundreds of people.
Yeah, the only way for it to potentially be feasible is if there was something else going on and it happened to be a coincidence, but like the likelihood of that is quite low.
Yeah, when I look at this one, this is one of the few cases I've looked at where I was like, damn, the police did a good job. They actually seemed like they cared. They weren't trying to deny that this was something weird. This guy disappeared and the police gave it their all. The detective who was in charge is still trying to figure out what happened. He's still going on podcasts. We could probably reach out and invite him. And maybe we should.
Yeah.
He'll probably be a good guest to have on. Because the only podcasts I've seen him on have been with the one woman who's kind of the unofficial like guru of the Brian Schaefer case. And well, I think she did a decent job with the interviews. They're kind of hard to follow, and they ran like there were supposed to be a whole series, and it stopped at 3 or 4 for some reason. Like I think it was just somebody who probably just didn't have the time on their hands to really dedicate to it. That said, her name's Kelly Bruce. If she ever hears about this show, I'd love to have her on. Talk to her about it. Maybe we get her and I think it's Sergeant Hurst. If we get both of them on, that'd be awesome. I would love to.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I miss things. It happens. Other people miss things too. When we had Tony Wright on a few weeks ago, I was like, perfect. When you have 2 people in the room who have both researched this extensively, they tend to fill each other's gaps, and you have interactions where suddenly you're like, oh, well, maybe it was this.
Yeah.
Totally new ideas come out of it as you kind of debunk each other's theories by process of elimination. So I think that would be a great show to have, those guys on to talk.
Without a doubt.
But Brian, what?
I said without a doubt.
Brian, he didn't leave through the emergency exit. He didn't leave through the front exit. The one way people have suggested he could have left without being seen on camera was if he had gone out of the bar, because if you go out of the bar, to your left is the staircase down. That has a camera watching it. To the right is a corridor, like a little hallway that leads to like an access service area that has a stairwell that leads downstairs, and people suggested maybe he went out that way. Either somebody pulled him out that way or he walked out there on his own. And then that he either died in the construction site downstairs and he's still in the building, or that he went out that way and snuck out through the back of the building. Because they were able to track his scent a little bit back at the parking deck area. I don't think I said this in the video because just, I think I just forgot to get to it. People have been like, oh, well, they traced his scent out the back door and, down the alleyway. But the thing is, he and, what was his name? Clint?
Yeah.
Clint?
Clint, yeah.
He and his friend Clint and Clint's probably, it seems like, girlfriend Meredith, based on the stories that they told, they parked in that parking deck and then they walked to the bar. So it could have been that. It doesn't necessarily mean it was that they caught it out the back door. They might have just caught it when they were passing the back door. Dogs are not a science here. Like, cadaver dogs are great. Bloodhounds are great. They are not an exact science. And there's also the fact that there were 2 security guards, and they might have even been police officers, standing right outside that door at the time Brian disappeared. And they're like looking at the door. You can see them look several times back towards the door. It was a restricted area. He wasn't allowed in there.
Yeah.
So had the cops seen him do that, they'd probably been like, hey, dude, what's up? And even if they hadn't, they would have remembered watching Brian go down that hallway. So I don't think he went down the hallway. What I suggested in that video was that he went to the balcony, climbed over it, and that he just slipped out that way. Either towards the back, towards the front, whatever. He could have made his way anywhere in the city from there, and nobody would have remembered a, just typical frat bro looking white guy walking out of the bar. The only thing that I'm like, somebody would have probably remembered a guy climbing down, but not necessarily. He might have been able to do it in a way that was discreet enough that nobody saw. And also, earlier in the night, Meredith says that he had left them to walk towards the opposite corner of the bar, presumably to talk to the band because he wanted to be a musician. He wanted to be a recording artist. But the other thing that's in the opposite corner of the bar from where they were is an entryway to the balcony. I think Brian intended to disappear because that's the only thing that explains how he left the bar without somebody seeing something. Now, the alternative could be that he left with a girl, and as I said in the Colin Forney video, there's nothing suspicious about a sober-ish girl taking care of a drunk guy. Now, you reverse the roles and you see a sober-looking guy carrying a drunk girl around, you start to have questions. But, you know, you put the fairer sex as the attacker and you don't end up with that problem.
Yep.
At least as a perpetrator. You don't have to worry about the fact that there were a whole bunch of people who saw you dragging this drunk dude out. They're just going to be like, haha, look at that guy.
Yeah. Considering there is a much different relationship of, you know, power dynamic in those scenarios where, you know, it is very easy and common, unfortunately, for a man to, you know, victimize essentially a woman in that kind of scenario. But it's not as intuitive for us in the other way around.
Exactly.
We don't assume that, you know, a man is going to be victimized because we generally, as a society, have this mentality of like, oh, he can take care of himself, or like he'll be fine no matter what because it's good to go. But you know, this theory that you have, particularly for the larger city ones, and I will say, let's two quick things.
Yeah.
One, for anybody who's been here the whole time, appreciate you sending in the super chats as you have. For those that have just joined recently, we're taking super chats for questions up until about 8, and then any super chats after that, you're welcome to send. We
can't guarantee we'll get to them.
Yeah, we can't
guarantee we'll answer anything sent in before 8. We can't guarantee we'll get anything after 8.
Yes.
If we have time, we will get the stuff that came in after 8.
Yep.
But, you know,
but real quick, so
it'd hurt to have an animation that goes up every like
it would
10
be
minutes
nice.
that says like, you know, get your super chats in by 8.
Yeah. That'd be good. But real quick, so since we have 20 minutes roughly until we get to the super chats,
Boy, we didn't even get a chance to touch the other stuff.
Well, that's my thing. Yeah, that's why I'm keeping us on track. So,
all right. So yeah, here, because we can go through that towards the end, quick. But because I mean, we've talked Flat Earth to death at this point.
Yep.
And we still have Witsit coming on the 19th.
Yep.
So to look at the Brian Schaefer thing, it seems to me most likely outcome is that he wanted to disappear. There's reasons to believe he may have been struggling with his sexuality. When we made the video, I was less sure of that, but there were some things that people commented and some clarifications that people gave that made me think, okay, maybe, you know.
What time period was this again?
2007.
Okay, so this is. It really does shock me how much it's changed.
Yeah, it was okay to be gay, but it also wasn't like it was something you didn't bring up in conversation. You didn't put your pronouns in your bio.
Yeah,
you know, it's like this is a time when I think don't ask, don't tell was still the policy in the military.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing is people who are, you know, born after probably like 2004, I don't think will ever really grasp. I think you had to have been in high school in 2015 to grasp exactly how contentious that decision was.
Yeah, at minimum high school.
Yeah, because it was like when that decision came down, it was the country was split, and like you in classrooms, you would have people on both sides of that debate. So, in high school classrooms, think about that.
Yeah.
Think about if you went into a high school classroom today and said, you know what? I don't think gay people should be able to get married. Would not go well. So it's, you know, things have changed massively. If you look at Brian, it was going to be a lot harder for a guy in 2007, especially a guy that looked like him, that had the career path he had, and that had the strained relationship with his father that he did. It was going to be a lot harder, and he was in a serious relationship. Be a lot harder for him to come out as gay.
Yeah.
However, if he moved to Miami, he could just show up and be like, hey guys, I'm Brian. I'm gay. And people in Miami would be like, hey Brian, we're gay too. That's not to say everybody in Miami's gay. Just Miami's, you know.
It's a hub.
Yeah. Miami, Orlando, like, you know, Florida.
The Keys.
Yeah. The gays love the Keys. And the old people too.
This is when we get canceled.
But if we get canceled for me being like, yeah, it was kind of hard to be gay in 2007, I'm gonna laugh.
Yeah. It's gonna be pretty bad.
Like, because it was.
Yeah,
But and it's positive. We've made positive change.
we did, thankfully.
It's good that gay people can be gay
Yes,
without fear of retribution.
it is nice.
Nobody should be harmed for who they are.
No.
Unless who they are is like a pedophile, but that's different.
Or
Or Al Qaeda.
yeah, I was gonna say terrorist, but I was like yeah.
I don't want to say all sexualities are valid because there's one specific one that is not.
Fair.
So, yeah, this is a tightrope we walk.
Yeah.
I love it. Brian, yes, Brian. I think if you look at it, guy wanted to be a musician. He had a strained relationship with his father. He may have been gay. He was in a relationship that his girlfriend saw as much more serious than he did.
He also, I don't know if you mentioned this, but he did not want to be a doctor.
He did not want to be a doctor. He saw being a doctor as a backup plan for if his music career didn't pan out. Like, that is...
It's got to be one of the most all-time things to do is like, yeah, I'm in med school, but it's really just to cover for, the band of mine that's going to take off.
Exactly. Like, I just think in his case, there are so many reasons to think he ran off on his own, on his own free will. Maybe he didn't go far. There was that message that was posted after his dad died a couple years later that they traced to a local library that said, I love you, Dad. I miss you, Dad. Love Brian or something.
Mm-hmm.
Some people suggested that was somebody trying to, and it was labeled U.S. Virgin Islands. People were like, oh, it was just a hoax. And I'm like, yeah, because it was, what was it? Said he was in the U.S. Virgin Islands, but they traced the IP to, Ohio, and everybody was like, "Oh, well, it was a hoax." And I'm sitting there, I'm like, "Well, in most drop-down menus, Virgin Islands is right under United States, so he may have just clicked United States, meant to click United States, accidentally clicked Virgin Islands because U.S. Virgin Islands."
Yep.
And that could have been it. It might not have been somebody trying to throw people off to make them think he's in the Virgin Islands. It might have been him. He might have not left the area. He might have decided to stay close for some reason. It also may have been a hoax, but. Yeah, Brian's case, I think he just ran off. When you look at some of the other ones, like Tommy Booth and Todd Guy, they have a lot of the right aspects. Both are young men. Both are, they're not, models, but they're not bad looking either. They're both out drinking. They both end up they both drowning. But Tommy Booth's friends lied about where they were going that night to him before they left. Tommy Booth's friends were involved in drugs and guns, and not the legal kinds. Tommy Booth's mother heard him on the phone with somebody saying, "No, I would never do that to you, man," a whole bunch of times and sounding anxious. Tommy Booth also told his uncle he was looking to move to Florida. It sounds like, and for the reason that he was concerned for his safety. It sounds to me like Tommy Booth was wrapped up in stuff he didn't want to be wrapped up in and decided to get out of town, and then his friends killed him for it. Or they handed him off thinking he would be a problem, and they didn't have the nerve to do it themselves because, they're a bunch of cowards. Like, if you're going to have your friend killed, do it yourself, man. Like, don't be a bitch. Obviously, don't kill your friends would be the step one, but also, like, hiring a hitman is weak.
Yeah, if you're a subscriber to the Lore Lodge, you should know that, us being sassy is not new, so bear with us.
You're censoring me today. You're censoring me. you're running cover.
I'm always running cover.
I said
for
don't
you.
kill your friends.
Yes, but again,
Okay, fair. I see where you're coming from.
Yes.
Anyway, so I don't think Tommy is a smiley face killer's case. Todd was a kind of similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did end up in a pond after a party, and he did have a high alcohol level in his blood. Excuse me. But it was nowhere near a city. These are usually rivers. I just don't see it being... He also had, like, noticeable drugs in his system. Like, not GHB. I'm thinking this was something where he was murdered, but if you look at the smiley face ones, again, like the lacrosse ones that I think are connected, those guys seem to have gone into the water the night they disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
especially now that we have Cole and Forney to look at, it really looks like they went into the water the night they disappeared.
Yep.
Todd was found in warm water in June after 21 days, and he had not decomposed at all. He should have been... They ran an experiment. We talked about it. They ran an experiment. They put pigs in the same clothes he had and left them in a pond in similar conditions, and they decomposed almost completely within 21 days.
Yeah.
Like, they were, not completely gone, but they were insect colonies and grime, and, half the carcass was gone. Like, Todd Guy was not in that water 21 days. Todd Guy was maybe in that water 24 hours, and I don't think he was, because there's the eyewitness account of the guys who were fishing on the lake the night before, and Todd was they didn't see Todd. Also, usually when people drown, they float like this. Todd was upright. He was not, he was not floating the way you would expect somebody who has risen to the top naturally after a few days to float.
Yeah.
Also, and they found a canoe full of beer cans.
Mm.
Like I said in the video, my opinion is that in the Todd Guy case, he was kidnapped after the party, after he left the party, held somewhere for a period of time, drugged, forced to drink, and then dumped into the water.
When I think, remind me again, but there wasn't anyone else that fit this profile in that area other than Todd Guy, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, copycat is possible, but the theory wasn't nearly as widely known back in 2005. I think that this was probably people who had the same idea. If we if we give him alcohol to the extent that he's severely drunk, and then we dump him in the water, he'll drown. And people will just assume he partied too hard and fell in. But if you haven't seen the video, I highly recommend watching it to understand exactly how convoluted this is, because we're not doing it justice here. But yeah, it's a lot. The drugs in his system, he was not prescribed. They are not party drugs. They are antidepressants that it seemed like maybe somebody else had and thought, well, if I just give him enough of these, it'll disorient him to the extent that he won't be able to swim out. So I think Todd was held captive for a period of time. I don't know why. It doesn't appear he was tortured because he had no wounds, but it's hard to say why it would have been done. In any case, those two I don't think are connected.
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at lacrosse, actually, let's go to Pittsburgh first.
Okay.
Because we've talked about lacrosse recently, but in Pittsburgh, actually, no, I will talk about lacrosse first because it's important. Because in my opinion, this may be the OG. This might be the real one. You have 5 men who drowned, quote unquote.
What were the date ranges there?
1998 to 2006.
Okay. Now
there have been, I think, 10 or 11 drownings in lacrosse of young men, but we looked through all of them, and one guy, it looked like, jumped off of a bridge. One guy didn't fit the victim profile at all. One guy had walked out onto the ice of the river. Like, they're just... There were reasons to think that these ones were not suspicious. They also didn't fit other things. One guy was black.
Yep.
That doesn't happen with these cases.
Yep. There were too many variables that were not matching the set that had a significant number of variables that were coherent across the different cases.
Exactly. So that I thought was, I just thought 5 or 6 of these don't seem connected. The ones that did, we had demographic stuff straight across. All of them were in their early to mid 20s. All of them were college students, except maybe there might have been. No, yeah, I think all of them were college students. All of them were drinking at bars on 3rd Street or directly adjacent to 3rd, at the intersection of 3rd Street with Pearl Street. All of them were drinking at bars up there that night. All of them, so far as I could tell, lived to the east or were staying to the east of the bars, and the river was to the west. They were all around, I think, between the heights of 5'8" and 6'2". All but one were definitively single, and all of them had blood alcohol contents near triple or quadruple the legal limit. One of them actually was quintuple. Yeah, one of them was 0.42.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's to give context for people, that is deadly.
That's dangerous.
That is, you should be in an ambulance to the hospital, get your stomach pumped.
Not
dangerous.
every time. They
Not
won't
every
kill you
time.
every time.
No, but it's
Yeah.
dangerous enough to warrant probably the
I-
seeing medical attention.
I have reason to believe that you can survive blood alcohol content levels that high by drinking a lot of water and sitting in your shower all night.
Do you want to
No.
do you want to elaborate as to
No.
why?
No. College.
Okay.
College is why.
Yep.
If anybody ever suggests that you should do a number of shots that equals the age you're turning, say no. It's a terrible idea. And if your cousin suggests it, say no harder.
Yeah. I will say
I don't know if he suggested it, but he definitely encouraged it.
Yeah. I will say something that recently was introduced into my life via one of Kat's coworker friends that we had a after work little get together thing. One of them had a little breathalyzer, just like a keychain
Ooh,
breathalyzer.
That might not be a bad. That would be a fun thing to have.
Exactly, and honestly, it is shocking how well some people know their body and how poorly others do.
Yeah.
Because there are some people who it's like they can guess it almost spot on
Mhm.
because they just are familiar with how their mind is and how their body reacts to it versus other people who are like, oh yeah, I'm probably like a 0.03 and they're like a 0.12.
Yeah. Exactly. Jeez. Yeah. So anyway, very high blood alcohol levels here. We're talking, like almost certainly blacked out for all these guys. Now, Cullen, part of the reason I said I think he may have survived the ordeal is that his BAC was lower. It was only twice the legal limit. And at twice the legal limit, some people might black out. But 47 out of the 50 heaviest drinking counties in America, if I'm not mistaken, are in Wisconsin. He was 21. I'm thinking he probably wasn't blacking out at 0.163.
Just by the nature of his tolerance level was
Yeah,
probably a lot higher than most.
If you drink the way that a state university student, I believe University of Wisconsin is a state school. I don't know particularly. It seems to function the same way as Penn State does. But 21-year-olds who drink at schools like that are typically not blacking out at 0.16. I don't think I ever blacked out after what that would be. I think it's 0.2 per drink. So that would be what,
There's no
8
way.
drinks?
Oh, 0.2. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah,
0.02, sorry. 0.02 per drink.
No.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Think about 4 drinks.
Yeah.
Puts most people over the legal limit. I looked at the math.
Wow.
It's
I didn't realize, to be honest with you, I didn't realize it took that many drinks to hit the legal limit and go over it.
I know it goes down by 0.2 every hour, and your body processes 1 drink per hour.
Yeah. I think it also is different for different size people.
So the number of drinks it's gonna take does vary a little bit. Somebody Cullen's size, I believe it should have been 8 or 9 drinks.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know anybody from my college days who blacked out after 8 or 9 drinks.
Interesting.
Not one. I knew people who didn't black out after 15 drinks.
Wow.
I watched people drink a bottle of Jack Daniels and be fine. I mean, not sober, but fine.
Shocking.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy what the body can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the reason Cullen survived is likely because he was lower content. And it seems like, based on the temperature of the water that night, he can't have gone in before 6 a.m. He just can't. He would have died.
Yeah.
No question. Because if he goes in before 6 a.m., he does not walk into that hospital at 7 a.m. He either walks in way earlier or he doesn't walk in at all. So I think that it was a mix of whatever happened that night. It seems like maybe it took them longer to get him in the water than they expected to, whoever it was. But it seems like he was also dosed with GHB, because every single one of these cases, aside from his, where the person didn't survive, seems they went into the water the night they went missing. They typically surfaced after the expected period of time, or they didn't surface after the expected period of time. Luke Homan and Jared Dion, I think, both never surfaced and were found by divers, but it might be Charles Blatz that was. No, it was. I'm not positive. It's in the video. These guys all matched. They were all around the same height. They were all good students. They were all popular guys. They were all good looking. They were all at bars on the same street at the same, the same time of night. Like, all of them ended up in situations where their friends didn't know where they'd gone off to.
Mhm.
So think about why you might not question why your friend disappeared at a bar. You're probably going to assume if you've never had reason to believe they might have gone missing, probably going to assume they met a girl.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would have told you they're leaving.
Generally, unless you have a friend who you already know is notorious for Irish goodbyes, they're really
then it's a little different.
Yeah, then it's a little different. That you've got those two main options: either they met someone and they were just so focused in on that they didn't think to either tell you or text you or anything along those lines, or again, you have somebody who is notorious for just slipping out. And generally, as a friend group, you're going to know that.
Yeah, some of these guys were known to dip.
Yeah.
If you look across all of the cases, but a lot of them weren't. I look at it, and Cullen said that if we assume Cullen is one of these victims, the way he described things really sounds like he was dosed with GHB at the bar. He says he remembers being on the dance floor, and then he was swimming for his life in the Mississippi. You only lose that time that aggressively if you've been drugged. Alcohol doesn't do that, especially not at 0.16. He would, at the very least, be able to get memories back. Because the thing is, like, I know that there have been times where I've been drunk enough to not remember things, and then the next day, people have been like, you did these things, and then I remember them. Because I just don't have the recall, but once I do, I know how it happened, and yeah, so, yeah, I just think that's what's going on there. But yeah, the lacrosse cases over the course of, I think, 9 years, 8 years, 9 years, something like that. Might have been 97 to 2006. I think these guys were victims of something, of someone. I think it was probably at least one female perpetrator, because I think it's the only reason they leave. And there was that toe line on Luke's head that was just way too narrow to be a man's boot.
Yep.
And a lot of people were like, well, could it have been a cowboy boot? I'm like, not that kind of narrow. It was still rounded. It was just like, the way I figured this out, by the way, is I had Amanda take pictures of me holding one of my boots and one of her boots up against my forehead. Yeah. And she wears, I think, like a size 6 or 7.
Yep. Plus, as far as I'm aware, heels frequently have very sharp, angles in the front of them, whereas it's really, even men's dress shoes are generally a lot more elongated and rounded.
Yeah. And it didn't look like the pattern you would see on Converse or Vans or anything like that. So it wasn't a tennis shoe pattern. It wasn't a sneaker pattern. It had to have been a boot pattern, and it was too small to be a man's boot. And I mean, Luke is really the one where the rest of them, there's not a ton of information out there to even say. But Luke has a boot print on his forehead. Like, they said it looked, the medical examiner didn't say it's a boot, but when it was brought independently to other medical examiners, they said it was a boot. It looks like a boot to me. It's got the exact correct pattern. It even has places where you would see more pressure because there were divots in the structure of the boot. So yeah, I like somebody stepped on his head. Why? Why did they do that? It clearly the river didn't step on his head.
Yeah.
And I know some people say "step on me, mommy" as a joke, but I don't think anybody means it.
Speak for yourself.
Oh boy. I still, I don't tell this story frequently, but I was with him and Wendigoon in a hot tub in Tennessee once, and they bullied me for a solid 30 minutes for saying that I don't like, I wasn't particularly interested in women taller than me.
So
his girlfriend is shorter than he is, by the way.
This is true.
And when they get married in 7 to 9 years, that one was for Kat, in case she's watching.
Yeah, I think she is watching right now. She's currently working on the house that she still has yet to move into. So if you are watching, Kat, I hope it's going well over there.
You got 7 to 9 years to finish.
Yep. Yeah. It's that time frame shrinking rapidly, man. Is it
down to 6 to 8?
Yeah. It'll have been 2 years this July. So
wow,
it's time flies.
6 to 8 years.
6 to 8. First of all, massive lore drop there for the people who were unaware of that story. Secondly,
I mean, there's nothing wrong with the story.
No.
Embarrassing. I'm the embarrassed one here.
No, I know. I think the main reason we were just like teasing you about it was because it was easy to be teasing about it, and it was also just because it was such an interesting hang up. So I think that was just the main.
Yeah, I don't know. And you guys are obsessed with car washes, so.
Incredible. Anyway, so real quick.
At least you made it to graduation.
Yeah. That's what's important.
A lot of inside jokes.
Yeah, many.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So, but we've talked about lacrosse ad nauseum now.
Yes.
So just to quickly get into the Pittsburgh thing, and the reason I don't think that the Pittsburgh thing is necessarily the same perpetrator. First of all, Dakota James was gay, which means female perpetrator walking up and trying to woo him probably was not going to work all that well. And also, he wasn't like, I don't want to say that some people are visibly gay, but there's some people who give off like an affect.
Is it?
You can typically tell.
Is it?
Not always. Some gay people are, you would never guess, but
Yeah.
a lot of the time there's a bit of an affect to the voice, and there might be a way that they present themselves.
There's terminology for that.
Buoyant?
Yeah, I was gonna
that's what I
ask.
was looking
is
for.
that still okay to say?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know. The times are changing too quickly.
They are.
I
They're
don't know
changing.
what words
quickly.
are okay anymore.
Yeah. Let us know if that word is.
The
still
point is,
okay.
I think everybody in the audience knows that we're not trying to insult anybody.
Yeah.
The point is, he was not the kind of person who you were going to be like, oh, really? You're gay?
Yeah.
You would probably be able to guess.
But one of the types of people when they came out to their parents to be like,
yeah, we've known since you were 4.
yeah, it's like
exactly.
We've been planning for this.
Yeah, like from what it seems from the the testimonies given by people who knew him too, it was like, you would know he's gay if you met him at a bar. So I don't think any girl was walking up to him and saying, "Hey, you want to get out of here?" And then he fell for it because he's a drunk 20-something. I think he was probably killed for other reasons, if he was killed. Now, in these cases, there are several differences aside from that. All of them were white, but not all of them were particularly uniform in their appearance. Some of them were not even remotely to be considered successful. One was in from out of town, like just weird differences that you don't see with the lacrosse ones. Also, it seems that these guys were not put in the river where they disappeared. A lot of them were found way down the river. I think Paul Kochu was like 60-some miles down the river. Dakota was found floating beneath a dam that he should not have been able to pass through if he went in on the date he disappeared. He should have gotten jammed up, at least for a period of time, and should have had damage to his body from the dam. He didn't. Neither did the rest of them, so far as I can tell. So you look at that one and the other ones that happened in Pittsburgh throughout the 2010s. Do they seem like they might be connected to each other? Yes. They are all young men. They are all out at bars that night, except for Thomas Hughes, but I'm not sure. I think he was actually connected. So I look at those ones, and I don't think that these were particularly close to the lacrosse ones, aside from the fact they ended up in the river. It seems like all of the lacrosse people went in the same spot.
Yeah.
These guys seem to have gone in, they disappeared from completely different places, and then seem to have gone in different spots along the river. So I think that those are probably, could they be connected to each other? Yes. Do they match the MO in lacrosse? No. What does match the MO in lacrosse, even though there's only one so far, necessarily, there might be a second, but I wasn't able to, there's not enough information on it. Riley. If you look at the series of events that night, he was at 3 bars, I believe. He was kicked out of the last one for reasons. They said he violated their code of conduct. I believe it's a family friend, I think, who's kind of been acting as a spokesperson for the family. He said that Riley was just trying to do a good deed, that it wasn't an altercation, it wasn't a fight. And to me, I interpreted that as probably he probably saw a guy and a girl, maybe thought that something was going on that wasn't, and tried to break it up, or he tried to go and report something, and it was just obvious that he was gone, and then ended up getting removed for that reason. Also, it's a tourist town, and he was in the tourist section of the tourist town. If they can't legally serve you anymore, they're gonna look for a reason to get rid of you so they can have more people who can buy drinks.
Yeah.
So I think with Riley, all of that would make sense. Why he ended up getting kicked out of the bar and all that. It's weird. I think I think his friends are definitely hiding something. Maybe unintentionally, or maybe they're just trying to hide their guilt, but over the series of events. And again, I don't think that his friends should be harassed. They're probably already about as destroyed by this as you can possibly be.
Yeah.
I don't think they need to, have it really hammered into their heads anymore that they messed up. But for whatever reason, they did not leave with him. And they said that they said the reason was that they weren't allowed to leave with him. That's just not how bars work. I've been to Nashville. We had people comment who live in Nashville. That is not how bars in Nashville work. That's not how bars anywhere work. If you have a tab that you haven't paid yet, they will just charge your card. That's why they take your card. That's why you don't go and you say, hey, my name's this, and I'll pay you at the end of the night. They take your card first, then you order your drinks. So Riley, whatever happened, his friends did not stay at the bar because they weren't allowed to leave the bar. What they did do was, as soon as they got back to the hotel and realized he wasn't there, they did start looking. So friends are not responsible for this. Like, should they have been with him? Yes. Are they the people who killed him? No. And a lot of people have said, Riley hit his head. In the video, there was a little bit of a mishap that I explained, but where I just couldn't. Every version of the video I could find was frozen at one specific point. Aiden ended up finding a version that shows him falling. So people were like, oh, well, he fell and he hit his head. He could have just been disoriented, could have had a concussion, a TBI, ended up in the river. Now, first of all, if he had a concussion or a TBI of any kind, that would have shown up in the autopsy report, and they probably would have mentioned it because it would have made it very possible he fell in the river.
It would have been weird for them to have not mentioned it in the report, especially given how much publicity this case has.
Exactly. If they had a reason that they could, with all confidence, say he just fell into the river, they would. And that would be part of that. So that of course is an issue where people were like, oh, maybe he just hit his head and fell in. But there's more to it than that. There's the fact that he gets down the street, and what's odd is you look at the video, and it's obvious that this guy needed help, that he was not doing well, and nobody stops to help him, which is just horrifying to me.
I mean, the bystander effect is, loud and proud in that regard.
Yeah. So he goes off. He goes in the wrong direction. So first of all, if he was going back to his hotel, he should not have ended up anywhere near where he was if he was not drugged. The only way he ends up over there is if he was either told to go that way by somebody he was going to meet, or if he was drugged. Because you walk out of the bar, he walked out the front door, his hotel was to the left.
Mm-hmm.
The end of Broadway was a block to the right. It's not the kind of thing you can mix up when you're down there. There's a whole bunch of things, landmarks he would see that he wouldn't even need to be able to read street signs. He would just be like, oh, okay, my hotel's that way. So first of all, I think it's weird that he went the wrong direction. That implies that either he was given a reason to by somebody, or that he was drugged, and that's why he was disoriented enough to go entirely the wrong way. He was sober enough to jog, though he did fall over at one point. And then another weird thing is that he's very disoriented as he gets out of that parking lot and gets down the street and crosses it, and he's caught on the second camera at the traffic light. But then when he passes the cop a couple of minutes later, he sounds totally sober, which if it was a TBI, he probably would not have been able to sober up that quick. Whereas if you're just drunk and trying to avoid a cop, you can put on a sober face for long enough to say, not too bad, how's yours? When the cop says, how's your night going? So if it was just alcohol, I think he can snap to it like that. He's drugged, or he is. And now the GHB, of course, mimics alcohol pretty well, so he might be able to with GHB as well. But if it was just alcohol, then I think he was probably going to meet somebody.
Mm-hmm.
We know he was seeing a girl, but it doesn't seem like they were exclusive. Also, she texted him asking him how his night was going. He just replied, good LOL. Well, good lops, but it was probably good lols.
Yeah.
Which, is not a particularly interested response. I don't want to, psychoanalyze the relationship based off of a single text message. But the point is, I don't think Riley was necessarily tied down. And if he met a pretty girl who wanted to meet her somewhere, he might have gone for it. And, again, if they weren't exclusive, that's not me taking a dig at him. I'm just saying, if you think about the behavior of 22-year-old men, that's what you might expect. The real problem with Riley is not that he was drunk or that he it's not that, his falling in the river can be explained by him being drunk or concussed or anything like that. It's that we see him pass a cop at 9:52. He is seen on another security camera, another like 300 yards up that street, at like 9:53. And then his phone turns off. Now, the entire way that he's on camera, you can see the only spot that you could feasibly go into the water there. Otherwise, you have to climb a fence. So he gets there. There's a little wooden rail on the side that's low. Then there's an open space. Then that's about 30, I think it was 30 yards. Might have been 30 feet, but it was 30 something. That's an open space where you could potentially go in. But we have Riley on camera the entire time he's passing it, and he doesn't go in. Then he gets to the bridge. His phone either turns off or doesn't have service. It was on the street, and it was in downtown Nashville. He probably turned it off. That seems like the much more likely explanation there. Or somebody else turned it off. Why? I don't know. We know that the reason it turned off was not because it was low on battery. It had more than 10% because he had Life 360. And it sends out alerts every time your battery drops below 10%. And the police were also able to ascertain somehow that it didn't die because of low battery. So we have Riley all the way up to that fence. And we don't have anything after that somehow. Now, of course, this area has signs that say this area is monitored 24/7 by security cameras, and that might just be a deterrent some places, but this is right out back of the city jail. I don't think that's a bluff.
Yeah.
So I think that they must have further footage of Riley further up the street. They won't show anybody the footage where he's walking past the open space. And the reasoning is that it's low quality and just shows him walking. The thing is, that's exactly the description of every other video of Riley from that night. It's low quality and it just shows him walking, except for the one that shows him falling down. But for the most part, it just shows him walking. That's not why they're keeping that video under wraps. Now, I don't know necessarily why Riley's family is going along with it, having seen the video. It might be that they were told this is the best chance of figuring out what really happened, is if we don't publish this information. I personally disagree with the police, if that is the reasoning, because how often do the police actually come up with an answer to these things? Almost never. Usually they come up with an answer. It's not supported by any evidence, but they come up with one. So yeah, I think Riley just ended up, I don't think Riley just ended up in the river. There's also the thing with his debit card that his wallet was not there, but his debit card was, and his pants weren't, which is weird. He was found missing his pants and his cowboy boots and his wallet. He was wearing a belt, Aiden. His pants were tight.
Yep.
And cowboy boots are hard to get off. We demonstrated that.
We demonstrated that very thoroughly in our video.
I don't think he ends up found without his pants, boots, wallet, all that, if he just falls into the river.
Yeah, no.
And especially when we've seen so many other cases of people who have fallen into rivers like this, not a single one of the people in Lacrosse or Pittsburgh was missing their pants.
Yeah.
And they were in the Mississippi. Not the Columbus. They were in the Mississippi. And the Ohio. So, these are big rivers. Columbus River's big too, but it's not Mississippi. So, what was I saying there? Yeah, so I just don't... I think all of the evidence points towards foul play here. Also, if you look at where he was found, there is a way that you can drive in there. So, if the person who killed him had access to the Lafarge North America plant where he was found, in the river right adjacent to it, and there's a structure there as well in the water, they could have taken his body all the way to where the body was found. And nobody would have seen, especially if they had access at night. So personally, and I said this in the video, I don't think it hurts for the cops to look at the records of who was coming and going at that plant over those 14 days. I don't think it would hurt to compile a list there and send it out to bars and say, hey, did you serve any of these people? I don't think that there would be I don't see how that would be detrimental, you know? I know it requires manpower, But hey, if you guys can't get it done, deputize somebody to do it. There are people who will. Like, I would happily go and help with that. I don't have law enforcement training, but you don't have another option, it seems, because either you're either unwilling or unable to dedicate the time and effort to it that you need to. So if you're not going to do that, deputize the people who will, and let them investigate. Or call for help. Ask the feds. Do something other than just saying something as ridiculous as we would expect a body to surface in 14 to 21 days. No. Not with the water at the temperature that it was. He should also, just, this is something that they talk about in case studies in drowning forensics. He should not have made it 8 miles downriver. Like, that's weird. That's very strange. In the time he did.
Do we have any indication of, based on the currents and the weather patterns of the area and the general flow rate of the river, where he should have been?
It's something called drop rate,
Okay.
which is when a body goes into the water, where it will end up if the person drowns. So basically where the person gives up and sinks. And I can't remember the exact numbers, but he'd have to be in deep water to end up that far before surfacing. Like, if he surfaces, yeah, he'll end up a good ways down because he'll just float. But it's unclear if he actually surfaced. They found his body while removing something from the water. He was under it. So it could be that the spot where his decomposition hit the rate where he was going to float could be that was just under that log or barge or whatever it was. But if he went into the water that night, this is the hard part, is there's no autopsy results yet. We need those. Like, we need to know what happened to him. We need to know what his physical condition was when he was found. But yeah, I think they need to look into the Lafarge North America situation, into that plant. I think that the cops need to be more forthcoming with video that they have, because they definitely have more footage of Riley. There's just no way that he walked past that jail and was not seen. And it's weird that his phone turned off where it did.
Yeah.
Like, why? He was also in the part of the city where there are homeless encampments, and that was a thing that was investigated. They were concerned that someone might have robbed him, or it was something that went wrong, and that's how he ended up in. I don't know what happened to Riley. I'm just really struggling to find a way in which he falls into the river where they found his debit card.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like the one place he could have gone in, and we have him on camera not falling in there. Like, and that's the other thing, is the media did not come out and say the debit card was found here. He had this conversation here. I had to do that work myself. So, like, it's really hard to get the public the information they need with the kind of work that's being done. Because, again, if the debit card was where I believe it was based on the information available, he can't have gone in there. In fact, there's nowhere that he could have gone in that the debit card could have been found. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, because he would have been seen on video. The debit card was planted there, basically, is what I'm saying. Some people have accused the TikTokers of being behind it, the ones who found it, but I don't think so. Is it possible? They were on a live stream too, so, I don't buy it. I don't think they had anything to do with it. I think they did find the card. But what I think happened is there was an incident with a homeless guy who saw somebody almost fall down the embankment. By the way, a lot of people weren't really understanding how steep this is. This isn't like a gentle 10-foot slope. This is a very, very, very steep drop, which is weird. Like, you wouldn't like go there to pee into the river. It's not that kind of thing. This is a long drop. There would have been damage to his body consistent with a fall. And the thing is, they didn't say his body had damage consistent with a fall to the media. They just said his body didn't have damage consistent with foul play. What does that mean? What do you mean the injuries weren't consistent with foul play, yet they're also not reported as consistent with falling from a great height? and hitting your body on trees all the way down. Like if he fell into the river where they said, because again, he wasn't climbing into the river there. If he fell into the river where they said, he would have just all sorts of bumps and bruises, and they would be red.
Yep.
He like any cuts would be red because they would be antemortem. Riley did not go into the water where that debit card was. So where did Riley go into the water, and how does debit card end up down there? I don't know if it's the same people that did Lacrosse. What I do know is that the situation doesn't make sense. And writing it off as an accidental drowning, I think, is just extraordinarily foolish. But yeah, so cool. We don't have to talk about Flat Earth tonight. I escaped it.
Yeah, no, you substantially escaped it because it's 8:25 right now.
Why don't you ever? I told you to tell me what time it was.
Because you were on such a roll, and I tried to cut in every now and again, but like I didn't want to like blatantly cut you off.
Can.
Yeah, but like what you were saying was
Okay,
good.
Fair.
You know, it was good content. We got 1,200 people in here.
Oh, okay,
so I
cool.
figured,
Nice.
I figured
All
they'd
right,
want to
yeah.
hear it.
Well, I guess it's probably time for questions then.
It is, in fact, time for questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be reading all of the questions that we got up until 8 o'clock, and
If we have time somehow.
somehow, if we have time, we'll get to more. But yeah, feel free to send more if you want. At the very least, you know, we might get to them. But yeah, in the future, if you want us to definitely answer your questions, try and get them in before 8, please and thank you. The first one is from the Sky King 5, which is an incredible name, giving us a Canadian $10, saying, this should be an interesting stream, less headache-inducing than your chat with the Flatoids.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Also, this Friday's video is it takes place in Canada.
Yeah.
Worry about
that's
Canada.
true. Very true. Very true.
It's about time.
Kellen, it's about time. Kellen, the official data for $4.99. Kellen, good to see you as always. Saying, I'm still mad about the ending of Steven's submarine video. Do you know what he's talking about?
No, actually. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, we're going to have to watch that. Pink Nomi 13 for $5. Interesting name. Says, you both bear a passing resemblance to the ghost facers from Supernatural. Thank goodness you're legit and have better writers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see it. I would be down to be a ghost facer.
You know, honestly, I'd be cool with it. At the very least, just for the opportunity to get at least one ride in the Impala, I'm all in.
Yeah. Oh God, what a good show.
What a great show. Mike DeRussia, please let me know if that's correct, for $1.99 says, how do ghosts listen to podcasts? Don't look at the answer.
Is there an answer in there?
Yeah.
Do ghosts listen to podcasts?
Yes.
It's going to be really obvious, isn't it?
Not as obvious as you'd think. It's not a platform. It's a method of
Spirit
listening.
box?
No.
How then?
Bluetooth.
I'm leaving.
Incredible. Elena de Howler, Werewolf Queen for $1.99 says, no question, just support with a nice little heart.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Mike DeRusha back at it again for $4.99 saying, if a fetus eats its twin in the womb, does it become a Wendigo baby? And if the twin is in a coma, is it a vegetarian Wendigo baby? I can confirm it does not become a Wendigo baby because that's what happened to my dad.
Pardon?
My dad was a twin, and he was the only one to come out.
He conswomed his twin.
He did.
Yeah.
He conswomed. But yeah, so can confirm, unless I'm half Wendigo, that does not in fact happen.
No, I think there are some other metrics that have to be met.
Yeah.
a few more things that need to happen.
Yep. The next is so we answered both parts of that question. Local legends Burton Moran, interesting name.
Probably Moran.
For $10. Burton Moran, maybe. Yeah.
I did. I gave him he had me do a cameo to review one of his videos.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good stuff. He gave us $10 saying, I was thinking about going back to the spot he went missing next month, possibly to do a live stream at night to show what lights could be seen from that area. This was at 7:29.
Oh, he's talking about Brandon Swanson.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, I'm considering looking at the Lawson case as well. And if I do that, then I will definitely be reaching out to have you onto the show because I know you've been covering that pretty extensively. Yeah, but I mean, if you do, like, I would love to watch because
yeah,
I've been very curious about the situation. Now, obviously, it's been, a while since he went missing, but I assume that in rural Minnesota, things probably haven't changed all that much.
Yeah, I mean, one way to find out.
In terms of, like, what lights you can see from where.
Yeah. Fair. Concerning Cafe for $4.99 says, "Are you still interested in covering the Johnny Gosh disappearance? It's a case that stuck with me, and I'd be curious to see your take on it."
We can write it down.
Yeah, we can write it down, or if you want to email it to us. Believe it or not, actually, this week the story that we're covering is from a recommendation in our email. So we do look at it, not as frequently as we would like to, or we don't, get the opportunity to organize it as much as we would like to. But we do, in fact, look at the suggestions that you guys send. And this week is a direct result of that. So appreciate it. We will write that down and look into it. But if you want to follow up with some of the information that you have on it in the email, I will be taking more and more stories from the email and putting them into a Google Sheet I created for us to help kind of organize this stuff. So that would be extremely helpful.
Johnny Gosh?
It's Johnnny and then Gosch.
Paperboy?
Potentially.
Was a paper who disappeared between 6 and 7 a.m. on September 5th, 1982, presumed to have been kidnapped. Yeah, I can definitely look at that. I can definitely look at it.
Yeah, we'll take a look. Next is Elena de Howler, Werewolf Queen, again for $4.99, saying, "How drunk would Brandon have to be to have gotten so confused?"
I don't think he would have had to have been particularly drunk. I think just disoriented. These are rural back roads. They're, probably not the best marked in the world. Some of them aren't even paved. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't think that he would have had to be so drunk that he would have been unable to drive at all. But we do know that he ended up going got off into a ditch. So clearly he wasn't in total control of the vehicle.
Certainly not, no.
It may have been as simple as like I don't know. I don't know why he would have been so confused. Now, I mean, Lind was in the same general direction, east, as Taunton. So he may have thought he was further along than he was. I don't know.
Maybe. It was a weird one.
It's a weird one.
Next is Burt Moran again for $5, saying, "I didn't post it in my video, but I did find a smiley face painted on a sign on the road he disappeared on. I still have the footage."
Ooh, if you could let us know where it was, I'd be curious. That might be why it's considered an SFK case.
Yeah.
By some. But yeah, part of the problem with that, though, is that, like, unless you can prove it was there before unless you can prove it wasn't there until after he went missing, it's really hard to draw the connection because it's such a common graffiti style.
Yeah, it is tough. Red Moon 552 for $9.99 says, "First time ever commenting. Wanted to say thank you. Your video about the human trafficking movie made me realize that I was trafficked and has helped me come to terms. Thank you so much." That is...
Oh my God.
First of all, thanks for the first comment. Second of all, thank you for sharing such, intense information.
And most importantly, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that is
horrifying. I'm glad that you survived.
Yeah, and that's shocking to hear that we had help in helping you figure out a way out of that scenario and realizing that you were in that scenario.
Yeah, I am so sorry.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we were able to help in some small way.
Yeah, without question. So
wild.
If there's anything else we can do, let us know. But yeah, we're glad you're out of it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All Dragons Are Sluts for $5 says, "Lore Lodge and Chill, sipping on my Lore Boys Wendigo juice." Nice.
I assume you mean the coffee?
Must be, considering I think that's what you called it in the ad.
Did I?
Week. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The Lore Juice?
Something, I don't know.
Maybe. Ryan Whitcup for $5.19. I love the specificity. Thank you so much. Says, "Got approved for public affairs this weekend for the USAF." Congratulations. Woo! That's awesome.
Congrats, man.
Just got to get my med waiver. Crazy how everything is starting to move along now. Yeah, I got to say, maybe it's just because we're all becoming adults slowly. But it seems like a lot is happening in a lot of people's lives right now.
Yeah.
And maybe
stuff accelerates.
Yeah, and I think it's just like as you start to become like a real adult, or even beyond that, I think just life in general continues to move faster and faster, and it's really just wild how quick everything is happening.
Ugh.
But Melanie Stein gave us $4.99.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Mike DeRusha for $1.99 says Sasquatch's parents are Sasclock and Sasclock and Sassundial. Incredible. Because I believe, Sasquatch.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's a good one.
I like that. Eleanor the Howler Werewolf Queen for $1.99 says Mom, the Emerald Queen, and I are heading out. Have a good evening.
Thank you for coming.
Yes. Malenkia for $5 says, curious if you've ever looked into Joshua Guymond, and St. John's College in Minnesota, I believe that is. MN is, it's Minnesota, I think.
What was the name?
Joshua Guymond.
How do you spell Guymond?
Guimond. And St. John's College. Some say smiley face, but a lot think that it was one of the monks, apparently.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Last seen on a
my allergies
bridge.
are killing me today. So I was reminded today that I'm allergic to cats. That's really unfortunate for me because I was helping a buddy move from an old place to a new place, and they have a cat. And when you're carrying around sofas and bedding and all of that stuff where the cat has routinely lived on, a lot of that dander and such gets right up into your sinuses. So
yeah, wow.
Apologize for my sniffing.
He was never found.
Really?
Yeah, Joshua Guymond.
Wow. Yeah, we'll have to keep that one in the rotation.
Look into it.
Echo Warrior for $4.99 says, how much for you two to go caving in the Nahanni River Valley and live stream it? Don't worry, it most likely won't be a Ted the Caver 2.0.
We're not allowed to.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, you have to, get permits out the ass. Because
Mm.
it's a protected wildlife refuge now.
Got it.
So,
how smart.
yeah, you have to... You don't necessarily need a ton of permits to go in, but in order to go into the caves, yeah. If you were to just want to go into the park, I don't think you need any sort of special permit. It's just really hard to get in because there's no roads. You basically have to either canoe upriver or be flown in. What are you looking at?
Well, I did just see Ella's nose slip through that end for a brief second.
It happens.
And I think she might be on the other edge trying to come in.
Possible.
So.
Yeah, but so the caves, though, are protected. Now you might have a conspiracy theory about why they're protected. You also might not. Either one's reasonable.
Sounds a little bit like the conspiracy theory that started this whole thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Very close to it, actually.
Yeah.
Almost exactly what it was.
Right. Barbara Lavandino, I believe that's how you pronounce it, became a new member.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
That gets
Appreciate
you
it.
access to the brand new Liquored lore.
Yeah.
As soon as it's edited for content and reposted.
Yeah.
What?
Sorry, I didn't think that was the sync at first.
It was.
Yeah.
It's not that.
Yeah. Anyway, Totally Not JMO for $2. Welcome back. Says, hey, Bussy Boys. Sorry for me being MIA last week. We're never going to escape that nickname, are we?
Nope.
We're
okay.
We're continuing to get more and more professional and have real guests on, but we're still going to have that in the comments. I hope we don't have doctors on and people.
My poor grandmother watches this show.
Yeah, I'm not sure what of my family members watch this show. I'm glad none of them have asked me to explain what that is.
Yeah, exactly. God, could you imagine?
But you're good, JMO. We appreciate that you're back though. Lord Phil the First for Canadian $5 says,
hell of a name.
Hi there, first time getting you live. I'm from Saint Agatha de Monts, Quebec.
That sounds French.
Please try to pronounce it. And where's Archie? Keep up the good work. I'm gonna say Saint Agatha de Mont.
How's it spelled?
Saint with an E dash Agatha, but instead of an A, it's an E at the end. And then another dash, and then des, and then another dash, and then Mont.
M-O-N-T?
S. M-O-N-T-S.
The only thing I can think of is I think Saint in French is pronounced more like son.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Son Agatha.
San Agatha de Mon. 'Cause
Probably that's what Son Agatha
TS
de Mon.
is probably-
Yeah, that's probably how I would think about it.
Yep.
Then again, it is Quebec, so it might be different pronunciation than regular French would be.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll figure it out.
I mean, I could probably just give you a stereotypical one. It would work. Saint Agatha du Mont.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely how you're actually supposed to pronounce it.
Probably, yeah. Knowing the French.
JMO's back again for $5 saying, Thornbussy, I will duel you on this. The P47 jug is superior to the F4U. I'm not sorry. Well, if you're talking about the F4U-1, maybe.
What have you done?
But if you're talking about the F4U-4 and anything above that, I would highly disagree with you. We'll chat. We'll chat. And I look forward to it.
We were actually just talking about that.
Yeah, we were just talking about that last night. That was a fun debate. Yeah, no, I've learned a bit more about it even subsequently.
Yeah. I see that. Well, I more hear that actually.
Yeah.
Well, let him in.
Yeah. In terms of the F4U, because I'll just take some time while he does that. They were so solid of fighter planes, especially for what they were designed for, that I'd be so curious to see what the argument is. But anyway, moving on. Omni Travis for $20, which generally I would appreciate. In all caps says, not a dirty commie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were supposed to have mods. Certain people are getting yelled at tonight.
Incredible. Cara Belanuit, I believe so, for $5 says, just wanted to say, love your channel.
Archie, come here.
Just wanted to say, love your channel. I binged all of your older videos. It's awesome you put the history of all the area in your vids. It's my favorite part. We appreciate that very much. We're actually going to be doing something new with that segment.
Yes. Actually, I mean, I'll poll the audience right now. If you want to put a poll in.
Yeah, I can
There's
try.
A good number of them here, right?
Yes. Yeah, we got
like 1,100.
1,100, yeah.
Yeah, so the poll is going to be, prepare your answer now. Would you prefer that we keep the history segment in the video, as we have done historically, or would you prefer that we give a brief historical summary, like 2-3 minutes, and then put the history segment on its own channel? So that basically, instead of it being in the video, there would be a little, this is who was here before. This is a little, tidbit about what happened to them. If you want the full story, go ahead and check it out on the History Hut. And so those videos would be shorter. They'd probably be 10 to 15 minutes rather than being, 40 to 80. But they would probably be a little bit more in depth because we wouldn't be trying to cut down for time. The same way we do with the history segments in the current videos. Yeah,
that was kind of our mentality for it, or our thought process was we also really enjoy doing the history segment, but we know not everyone loves it.
Yeah.
And though we do appreciate that there are a lot of people out there that do, it would allow us to more specifically highlight a lot of the places that we cover and a lot of the key facts about it that we want to cover in a setting that is more geared toward that, and we don't get people essentially upset at us for essentially derailing anywhere between 5 to 20 minutes of a video about a missing person, talking about the history of cultures and peoples in an area. So it was kind of a compromise idea that we had, but we would love to see what you guys are saying, and let us know what you think. But moving forward, Totally Not JMO for $5 says, the milk has come for me, and I have not professed it. As I've not professed it, I pleaded with them, and it has said, Thorny Man, post the pod on the app named Spotp. They're all up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I scheduled them all over this weekend, so the only one that's not up there is the one you're listening to right now.
Yeah. They should all be up.
Yeah.
If there's one in specific that isn't up, let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything should be up there.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, I haven't missed any, but
I think so. Also,
I never know.
I can't see. I tried to see the poll, but I can't, so I don't know how it's doing.
It is very, very much people are overwhelmingly wanting us to keep the full segment in the video.
All right.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Nonetheless,
We'll do a broader poll across the entire channel.
Yeah. I have a feeling people are going to want to have us keep it overall, but we will play around with the possibilities of what's going to make the most sense for us in the future.
True.
HND223 has been a member for 2 months. Thank you. Says, hope the wall tripod and our hangover lads are all doing good today.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yep. There's certainly nothing that happened in the first live Drunk Folklore that would cause concern. There were not elements of the set crashing onto any of the technology.
Exactly. Nothing broke.
No.
Nothing broke.
Nothing broke. Genuinely nothing broke.
My soul did a little bit, but that was later.
Yeah, we're gonna revise how we do that a little bit.
we have set drink limits.
Oh,
you turned off a camera.
No, they probably overheated.
We got to figure out how to stop them from doing that.
I set them to have their overheat limit on high, so they have to get really hot to automatically shut off. I guess they did.
That might be part of why they were as inexpensive as they are.
Yeah.
But might not having good internal cooling.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe we can find an upgrade for it somehow.
Yeah. Nonetheless, what do we have here? Total amount of JMO for $2.49. Again, you know I love the specificity. I began to fulfill the deal. Berserk must be read.
I didn't hear that last part because somebody refuses to be quiet.
Yeah.
Archie, come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. You come here. Come on. Come on. Come up. Come on. Come here. Come.
This is the downside of having dogs in studio space in the same place.
I'm trying to.
What is he doing?
Now he's angry. He's no longer angry. Calm down. You
Nonetheless.
Relax.
JMO, I'm not going to lie. I'm not sure what you were referring to with that one, but he said, I began to fulfill the deal. Berserk must be read.
It's a manga.
I see.
He's super chatting a total of $250 over the course of probably a while. But once it's done, let me know once you've hit your threshold, and I will read the book.
Perfect.
They know I hate anime.
Yes. Oh, I figured this is why this was happening.
Yeah.
Quattro gifted 1 Lore Lodge membership.
Quattro.
Much appreciated. Ryan Whitcup also gifted a Lore Lodge membership. You guys are very generous tonight.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. JMO's back again for $11, and whoa, it just jumped away from me. For $11.42. Again, you know I love the specificity. Saw Sabaton and Priest in Boston and had an edible, and it beat the hell out of me. I was diving into the secrets of the universe while Panic Attack played in the background. Jeez. One of the weirdest highs I've had. Yeah, I can only imagine.
Wait, what was the drug?
It was an edible, so I imagine.
Oh boy.
Well, what kind of edible?
I don't know.
I'm gonna guess weed.
Probably.
The only thing I can imagine being more chaotic would be like mushrooms at a oh god, I just had their name in my head. I love this band. The
Grateful Dead?
No.
Allman Brothers?
No. You're going the wrong direction.
Mushrooms at the Disco?
No. The German band, the German metal band that I love. Rammstein.
It took you a while there for a band you love.
Yeah, I know. Ugh. Really terrible. Well, because I was imagining the concert I was at, and I was like, wait a second, why? Stop playing the images. I need the name. Yeah. Name. We forgot about a name. Yeah, that sounds brutal, JMO.
GHB at a rave.
Yeah, that's probably happened to a lot of people undesirably. Yeah. Mike DeRusha for $1.99 says Omni Travis is not a commie. That's good to know. What? Quattro for $5 says I'm in season 10 of Supernatural, and man, it's so good and so bad, all wrapped up into one enjoyable show.
What? What's the last one? I can't read it from here, dude. Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Sorry,
season 10 is...
That's when it starts.
That's when it starts to get bad.
Yeah. I love the show so much.
And I know you just watched your way through seasons 6 through 9 and then heard us say that season 10 is when it starts to get bad. Yeah, seasons 6 through 9 are when it was an average TV show. Yeah. It was a great TV show 1 through 5.
Yeah.
6 through 9, it was average, and season 10 onwards, you're like, oh, this is almost Riverdale.
And it's a shame because I love the show.
Yeah.
I love all of the actors and the people who produced it. But
There's still good episodes, and it's worth watching. But
I think the showrunner change really shook things up a lot. And there were also a lot of changes that they made for the sake of their families. Like I know the stars, Jared and Jensen, specifically asked for other people to have more screen time as the show went on because they wanted to be able to go home and like be with their kids, which is totally fair. Yeah. But I think
it meant they had to rely on newer characters that weren't written by Kripke more often.
Exactly. And, that can work. But I think for when you get used to a show in the first 5 years of it being so innately involved with the brothers, when you start to stray from the foundation of the show, it's always going to be a comparison back to form of the original version of what it was, essentially. So, anyway.
The Witcher Season 4 is going to do great, guys. You can definitely change out Henry Cavill for Liam Hemsworth without people noticing.
Yeah.
They're the same person.
I still haven't seen season 3 mainly because I was just so sad that Cavill was leaving.
Yeah,
is it good?
Is great.
All right, good.
I think in my opinion, I saw somebody who said that season 3 was like the worst one. In my opinion, season 3 is actually an improvement.
It's pretty terrible that I haven't seen it considering the necklace I wear on a daily basis.
It's something.
War Sage for Canadian $10 says, great video, guys, and I guess the next video will show the RCMP top competence as always.
Well, actually, in this case, no RCMP.
Really?
OPP. Yeah, Ontario Provincial Police, but no RCMP.
Also, I just realized that I've been going through chats generally like normal. So we're the last like 3-ish, 3 or 4 were after 8.
Oh, okay. What time is it?
It is 8:51. So do we want to just go to 9?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Do you want to scan through and prioritize?
There's really not that many left.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go for it then.
Cool. Cam Boone, a member for 11 months, says 8 days till I hit the 1-year mark of a member.
It's almost our anniversary.
That's awesome.
Our lodge-iversary.
Yeah. Oh my God, we're gonna have to do something for that. Keep up the great work and thanks for opening up so much of the stream last night. Mattis, I hope you're okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, the issue was I was drinking the way I would drink after a normal day, but I forgot I'd only eaten a sandwich.
Yeah, and
the only things I put in my body yesterday were a sandwich, coffee, and Adderall.
Yeah, and I
probably was not the best choice to drink as much whiskey as I did.
No, and I haven't drank in a month.
Yeah,
and I figured it was going to be an issue, but
yeah, it was.
Anyhow,
as we said at the beginning of the show, it went from 0 to 100.
Yeah,
I was fine, and then suddenly I was not fine.
Thanks for sticking with us, those who did. Much appreciated. But Elffinder General for $10 says, been listening and enjoying your videos for the last couple of months. Anyway,
thank you.
If you do another Mason video, would you look into the Process Church? They have ties to both Mason and Son of Sam.
Interesting. Yeah, I can definitely look into that. Yeah, the Masonry video was gonna be this week, but then it was way too big to do in the time I had, so that also might be a multi-parter over the course of a few months, because it's just, like you could do an entire video on the first 3 degrees.
Yeah,
and then that would be a lot. Also, I am probably gonna have to run some things by some people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say anything about anything that's been published online. I can talk about. I think there's just I don't want to step on any toes with some of the older folks who might not be aware that all of it is online now.
Yeah.
Also, that's the other funny thing is people are like, oh, they keep all the secrets and everything. It's like the entire degree process is on Sacred Texts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you go online to Sacred Texts, the website, at the very least, the first 3 are up. I don't know about past that, but.
Well, it'll be good to hear all of that told.
Yeah.
To whatever degree.
I'm looking forward to have the opportunity to just look into it.
Yeah.
I rarely have an opportunity to dive into Masonry to that extent.
Fair. Mike DeRusha gave us $1.99 for dog treats.
Woo! They'll be very happy about that.
Fandomaniacs for $20. Thank you so much. Says my grandma passed away last week and her funeral was Wednesday. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Very sorry to hear that.
My family is Mormon. I'm not, and want to know what you think about seeing our loved ones in the afterlife, as I know some believe marriage isn't a thing there.
Yeah. So The Bible has really interesting terminology around that. What?
Really quick, Phantom Maniacs did give a $10 follow-up to
Sure.
that, and I just wanted to make sure you had all the context.
Sure.
Saying the LDS Church believes that there are 3 levels in heaven, and those who are faithful will be in the highest level. Those in the lower ones won't see their loved ones or God and Jesus. This is why I wanted to make sure you had both.
I don't have a way of responding to this that won't be insulting to Mormons.
Fair.
I just don't. I mean, as a Christian, as a Trinitarian Christian, I believe that the afterlife has not been in any way particularly explained to us. The descriptions we get are it's beyond description, and that's about it. Like John says, John can't describe it, and I think is it Ezekiel? It's been a while since I read the other one. It's either Ezekiel or Elijah. I think one of them gets taken up to heaven and brought back to earth. And it's the same kind of thing. It's just indescribable. Elijah? Okay, yeah. So we don't know, like, Christians don't know what heaven is supposed to be like. Just that it's paradise and it's good.
Yeah.
You're gonna be glad you went there. And a lot of people have a total misconception about what the Bible actually says regarding hell, because it's not. Everybody has this picture of a physical lake of fire, or they think of Dante's Inferno, something like that, or they go to Paradise Lost. The actual scripture, and we have a Weird Bible episode on this, by the way. It's like one of the first 3. I don't know which one, but Isaiah and I did a whole long discussion on it. The words in the Bible that are translated as hell are typically either Sheol, Tartarus, or Hades. Now, Hades was just the Greek word for the underworld. Tartarus was a word for a pit, an endless pit in the underworld where, the most evil beings would be discarded, I believe. And then Sheol was the Hebrew word for the afterlife, which kind of just means afterlife. Like, that's the thing, is Christianity is far less specific about the afterlife than people think it is. Nowhere near as specific as Mormonism or Islam, both of which give very particular descriptions. So yeah, I mean, like I said, from a Trinitarian Christian perspective, I don't think that we can really say. I don't think that one would know. What I will say is that the Bible's perspective on marriage is that the 2 souls become one. You guys got to stop it, dudes. Is that the 2 souls become one. Now, does that mean that you would lose your independent consciousness in the afterlife? I don't think so. But what I think it does mean is that the Christian perspective on marriage is that when you get married to somebody, that is a bond of the soul that carries into the afterlife. So I would say, yes, you probably will see your loved ones and your immediate family again after death in the Christian perspective.
Makes sense. Just to wrap up quickly, so the Castman777 gave what I believe is 500 yen, saying, I found your guys' channel a few months ago and got addicted. You guys are basically my crack. I even subbed to your Patreon.
Oh, thank
woo!
you. Woo!
And then Bert Moran's back again for $2, saying, when you want to talk about Brandon Lawson, I'm down.
Can they hear it?
They should be able to.
It's coming up on the levels. You're adorable. You're a very cute puppy.
What a champ.
You're also very cute, Ella.
Yeah, Bert Moran's down for Brandon Lawson.
Yeah, definitely. I will reach out. I have to look at it myself first, is all.
Yeah, fair.
I don't want to walk in and be like, so tell me everything.
Yeah, right. Omni Travis for $20 says, I apologize for interrupting the chat show. You're good as far as I'm aware.
I didn't know that he did.
Yeah, neither did I. So, you're good. Appreciate it, though. Kira's Dollhouse Sweets Crochet. What an interesting username. It's Kira's Dollhouse Sweets Crochet for $5.42. Love the specificity yet again.
I'm just hoping the tripod.
Yep. I'm just hoping the pre-tripod good lord wasn't edited out of the lore lads.
What Was that?
I think it was.
It probably was.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aiden trimmed the live,
Yeah, I didn't
not
realize
realizing that it
was permanent.
permanently deletes.
Yeah.
So I just privated it.
Yeah, I had trimmed it this morning because I trimmed it right before he got to a point where he was talking about one of our friends' like full name and job, and I was like,
It's probably public information.
it is, but like probably not the best plan. And then
Fine.
not long after that, you disappear for the rest of the show. So I was like,
Which I apologize for. I realized I was probably not sober enough to talk without saying. Not that I think I would have said bad things, but there was a possibility that, in a sense of untoward irony, I would say something bad.
the man has a good sense of humor, but
I would have been so funny in 2004.
yeah, that's the best way to describe it. He would have been incredibly funny in 2004. Yeah, and sorry for rambling for a lot of the time that I did at that
It seemed
point.
like they wanted you to, so
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like you guys did, but
people were hanging.
yeah, valid. And then yeah, just wrapping up. So Pokemon Trainer 5678 for $2 says, "Good job being patient like a saint with the Flatzoid."
Well, I lost my patience at a certain point.
Yeah, that's fair.
Thank you, but I definitely did not make it through that entire stream without breaking.
Yeah, it happens.
It got, dude, when what was the thing that we said it was the other day?
Which
The thing that broke me with that video.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
When they kept saying that something was rise over run when it was a subtraction function,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't. I could not deal with it anymore. I was like, no. Like, first of all, the argument was whether or not railway engineers account for the curvature of the Earth. And I provided you a field book for railway engineers that very explicitly says that they account for the curvature of the Earth and gives the equations.
Yeah.
And then he goes and focuses on a random part of the page, doesn't even read what the variables actually stand for, and then keeps saying, it's just rise over run. It's just rise over run. And I'm like, it's a subtraction equation. It's not rise over run.
Yeah.
That's not slope. That is curvature. What is wrong with you? Yeah. The other one was when we got towards the end of the show and Freemasonry became the topic of discussion, and he started reading out of a book about Freemasonry, and I was like, who wrote this book? And he kept telling me the publishing company. And I'm like, no, who wrote the book? He just kept giving me the publishing company. So because he apparently doesn't understand the difference between publishing company and author, I went and looked up the name of the book and found it. Neither of the authors were Masons at any point in their lives.
Naturally.
And he's just reading it off as if it's some sort of authoritative document.
Oh, well, just don't forget, authority is in question on that channel because of,
They also don't seem to know what appeal to authority is. They think they thought that appeal to authority was when you cite someone. And it's like, no, appeal to authority is when you say, this is correct because either I or somebody else has the credentials and you don't.
Yeah.
Like, if I were to say to somebody, if I were to go talk to a doctor at a bar, and I were to say something like, what's a good example here? Broken legs need to be put into casts. And the doctor would said, no, they don't. They can just be out and about, willy-nilly. You don't need a cast for your broken leg. And then I said, well, that's wrong, and here's several medical studies that say you should have a cast on a broken leg. And he went, well, I'm the doctor, and I say you're wrong. That's an appeal to authority. They think appeal to authority is when you say, well, on the topic of the curvature of the Earth, if you look at the works of Aquinas and Augustine, and there were a few others that came to mind at the time, but if you look at all of these Christian authors, they all agree that the Earth is a globe. And they cite the Bible as their reasoning, as well as natural science and philosophy as their reasoning.
Yep.
And he's called that appeal to authority. And I'm like, no. The discussion was, what did early Christians think the Bible says? You guys are citing the church fathers. You're citing them improperly, and I'm going to correct you. You don't get to cite the church fathers and then tell me it's appeal to authority when I do it. Like,
yeah,
I'm actually getting angry just thinking about it.
Yeah, we'll move on. Totally Not JMO for $2.31. Love the specificity. It was weed. Also, the $2.50 will be in one chat.
Oh, it will be. Okay, well, thank you.
Yep. And then we've got 3 left, so we can wrap this up pretty quick.
Sick.
Elf Finder General for $2 says,
What a
my
name.
bad, Charles Manson, not masonry. We did do a
Oh,
Charles
we did do a
Manson
Charles
video.
Manson video.
Yeah, we have it up there.
I could revisit it. I mean, it's old.
Yeah, we could revisit it for sure.
Yeah, it might actually be a solid one to do because Manson's a popular topic. We have much better production quality.
Yeah.
I'll just redo all the notes.
We should also do that cult that began the understanding of confirmation bias. That one from the 50s that I bring up like once every few months. It was the one cult where they were all supposed to be raptured and then they didn't. And
Heaven's Gate.
No, it was before Heaven's Gate. We have this conversation every time.
No, I think it was Heaven's Gate. It's just that Heaven's Gate started a lot earlier than most people think.
No, because remember last time we looked it up. Sorry, I got to take this off. It's hurting my face. Remember last time we looked it up, and you were like, "Oh, I've never heard of this before."
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up.
You can find it
to you. Yeah. And then, what else? Faith for 199 says, "Can we get a Delilah segment at the end?"
A Delilah segment?
We can try. So, are you familiar with the Delilah radio show host?
No.
So I was only made aware of this recently, but there's been a radio host named Delilah for 20 some years now. And it's like late night radio for people who are like in the car, and it's just like advice and things like that. Yeah, kind of, but it's like, life advice and whatever and stuff. But it's just really like kind of almost ASMR.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the show last night, like I was getting tired and people like still wanted to chat or whatever, and my voice was starting to get like really quiet because I had been talking a lot.
Right.
And so I was like, yeah, I guess I'm just gonna do like a little like. I guess I'm just gonna do a little like Delilah segment here because I'm just having a point in which I'm unable to speak very loud at the moment, and so we're gonna keep it nice and low and soothing.
Close to the microphone.
Yeah, we're gonna make sure that everybody's having a good night, and thanks for coming by. But yeah, this is your little segment. Anyway,
I can smell you.
Creeping around right now, but you can't see me.
I may have only a measly shiv, but it is quite effective when applied to the jugular.
Still one of the best videos
one
of
of the
time
best.
on YouTube. John De La went away. John De La Vina for 199 says, "First time on your live stream, great coverage. Thank you."
Thank you.
Ryan Whitcup for $2.11 says, "Thomas Aquinas is not an authority on and
Ryan, I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna hit you in the head with the very bottle of whiskey that you sent me.
Yep. Thank you for pulling that reference. And then Aussie Tutwiler or Trutler.
Trutler?
I think so. Trutler probably.
Can't see it.
For Canadian 279, love the specificity on you and Ryan's. Didn't want to miss that. Milk. And honestly, what a
way to end this.
What a way to end it.
Yep. Milk.
They heard you say milk and they turned their heads.
Milk?
Oh no,
now they're-
a piece of wood that I have in Archie's mouth that they both desperately want to eat now.
That's very funny.
I would say
Yep. I say we end it with an awoo.
a woo.
Yeah. Archie.
A woo.
Come here, bud. Come here. Come on up. Why that way? Come here. Come here. Be smart. Come on.
He's not smart. He was trying to eat
That's a
wood.
fair point. All right, ready, Archie? Ready? Ow, ow! Ow, ow! Ow, ow! That's a good boy.
Such a good boy.
That's a good boy right there. All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out. We will be back with another guest next weekend. I
Yes.
forget who it is.
We could check, but
We could check. I know who it is. I just, like, for some reason right now it's escaping me.
yeah,
But I know who it is.
we talked a lot tonight.
It's driving me insane. Look at Archie's stupid little face. Oh boy, what'd you do?
We're back. I accidentally tapped the button.
All right, yeah. So, next Sunday we have a guest. I will try to remember what it's about. It probably won't happen, but who cares? You'll see on Sunday. And then on Friday we have a video on what I am calling the Smith Falls 3, but it might be the Smith Falls 4. Smith's Falls 4, because I may have found somebody else who
Oh,
may be connected. What?
Missing Enigma.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it's Nick. Cool.
Yeah.
Great guest. So we're going to have Missing Enigma back next week. And we have a video on the disappearance and possible connected deaths of 4 men from Smiths Falls, Ontario, over the course of just 2 years.
And again, this was email
from
from a subscriber.
It was Benjamin Price, I
Yes.
think. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for sending that our way, and we're glad we're finally getting an opportunity to look into it.
because it's weird. It's weird stuff. I mean, this is a town of 9,000 people, and these 4 guys all disappeared in very similar ways in just 2 years. And the entire province of Ontario, the missing persons rate for adults is 47 per 100,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So I say early in the video, I say early in the video that
Doing that.
yeah, well, it unbended itself, and I tried to fix it, and it did this. So anyway, I say early in the video that I think like it's not necessarily out of the ballpark, like out of the realm of possibility that all of these men are within the average
Yeah.
for the number of disappearances. 9,000 people should be about 3 or 4 disappearances every year. But I don't think these were the only missing persons reports, and it's weird that all of them are unsolved. Because that's the thing is, like, yeah, they said that one was a hit and run.
Mm.
They don't know who hit the guy. They've just assumed that these 2 were accidents, or that, they were crimes of opportunity like that.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 are still missing. So it's very weird that 50% of the missing people are completely just gone from this town, because the rate of, I guess, resolution, them finding the missing person, whether because the person returns on their own, or because they find a body, or they turn up years later for some reason, is over 90% in Canada. In the U.S., it's like 99%. Canada does seem to have more missing people, like, per capita than the U.S., which is interesting to me.
It is.
I'm not sure. It might be just the way that they do the math is different.
Yeah.
Like, they might have different criteria for considering somebody missing. But yeah, I don't know for sure. It's just it's a little weird. And then there's more to it that makes it also weird. So you guys will find out Friday.
Find out Friday indeed.
Let me try and... Much better.
There we go.
All right. Well, I think that's everything.
I would say so.
So yeah. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for hanging out, being part of this. Remember, I think you can now subscribe to become a channel member for $1.
Yeah, you
if
should.
I
be
set
able
it up
to.
right.
Yeah.
So for $1 a month, you can get access to the new Liquid Lore.
Yeah.
Liquid Lodge.
We got some Delilah segment in there last
Yeah.
time. We broke the studio.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Yeah, it went great.
If you think that we get off topic on this show, then you.
Oh yeah,
Are we gonna even try to think of
No,
topics?
probably.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we'll probably try, but
We'll try, but
it'll probably go off the rails rather quickly.
we will fail.
Yeah.
Uh,
Steven Stakuyi did say he wants to come and do a one of those with us.
oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I just got to figure out if we can get him up here or if we have
Yeah.
to do it online. But either way, it'll be fun.
Yeah. that'd be a
That
good time.
said, thank you for hanging out. If you have not seen any of the last 3 videos, please go watch them, because YouTube has apparently decided that we don't get views anymore. And yeah, like the stream, share with your friends, do whatever you must. We appreciate all of you. You make our dreams come true.
Genuinely.
And we hope that we can keep being worth it for you. So
Yeah.
thank you very much for hanging out, and we will see you on the next one. Bye, guys.